With almost every vote counted from the 2024 presidential election, every single state shifted towards the Republican Party. Even states as blue as California, New York, and especially New Jersey. But what's really funny about this map are some of the less intense red states, like for example Kansas and Oklahoma. They're basically white here because they can't possibly shift even more Republican than before. Literally every single county in the state of Oklahoma voted for the Republicans. There wasn't a single blue spot in this entire region. On a different note, I also realized that this map was prefaced by saying with almost every vote in. It has been more than a month. Why do we not have every single vote counted by now? My state of California is still counting. I realize we have the most population, but this is a little ridiculous. Get it together, California. The world's biggest country by population, India, with 1.4 billion people, they counted 640 million votes in a single day. Like, what the hell? That's twice as many people that live in the US, 640 million. Now, I do think this map is a little misleading. Remember, the Democrats obviously won in 2020, and this was a historic presidential election at the time because more people voted than did not vote for the first time in the US's history. There's just a whole lot of people in 2024 that just didn't vote in general this time. Florida used to be a swing state, but I think it's now a solid GOP state. Florida is as red as California is blue. That's insane. Florida used to be a toss-up literally not even that long ago. To put into context, the Republican Party came closer to winning the traditional blue states of Illinois and New York than the Democrats came to winning Texas and Florida. That's how big of a setback this last election was for them. New York and New Jersey are concerning for Dems long term, but the more immediate threat is Texas and Florida moving out of the potential purple state bucket. We talked about one extremely red state. Let's talk about a different one that used to be extremely blue. This is the 2024 election results for the state of New Jersey. Kamala Harris only won this state by about 5 points. Joe Biden in 2020 won this state by almost 15 points. That shift is unfathomable. That's literally a 10 percentage swing. How does that happen in 4 years? That much thicker blue that we just saw from 2020 looks a whole lot thinner here in the 2024 map. Also, the blue in general is just a whole lot less intense. A lot more lighter counties just barely going Democratic. The state of New Jersey was nearly as close as the battleground state Arizona. Arizona only went 5% towards Trump. So it turns out some people could have considered New Jersey even to have been a swing state before the election. And the state of New Hampshire, which went blue, was even closer than the other swing states. Kamala Harris only won this state by 3 percentage points. Again, that is in swing state territory. I think putting it like that really puts this all into perspective. Even the state of Minnesota was closer than Arizona as well. Tim Walz, the vice president pick, is from Minnesota. That state hasn't gone red in over 50 years, back in 1972. This is what is known as the impossible 3-color map. We're specifically looking at some of the counties that flipped from Biden in 2020 to Trump in 2024. Everyone's talking about this part in Texas, close to the Mexico border. Also, large portions of the state of California, some pockets in Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, and then as we talked about, look at all that stuff in New Jersey, as well as New Hampshire. I think more interestingly than looking at the purple counties, though, looking at the yellow counties, the counties that flipped from Trump in 2020 to Harris in 2024. There is none. No counties went Trump 4 years ago and then voted Harris today. That seems to be one of the biggest talking points out of the 2024 election. Alaska and Hawaii can go to hell, apparently. Yeah, they're not even on this map. Biden won California with 64% of the vote. Meanwhile, Harris only won California by 57. I think an even bigger point to talk about here is just how bad the polling was leading up to everything. Literally everyone was saying it was a coin toss. It was 50-50. Like, I guess polling is just never going to work anymore. So this is known as an impossible 3-color map because there should be 4 colors. There normally always is 4 colors, but because Harris didn't flip a single county to her side, that is why there's only 3 colors. Here's a map with a bit more colors. This includes the 2016 election, which Trump also won, but he lost the popular vote to Hillary Clinton. So all the red counties voted for Trump 3 times in a row, in 2016, in 2020, and in 2024. That is a whole lot of red, but that's also not that surprising. I guess it kind of is. That is a lot of Trump here. Pink is really interesting though. In 2016, they voted for Hillary Clinton. Then in 2020, they voted Trump. Then in 2024, they voted Trump. 1 place in Georgia, 2 places in South Carolina, 1 place in North Carolina, whole lot of places in Texas. We were just talking about that region. This seems to be the focus point for a lot of the media. A lot of Latino voters in this area. 1 spot here in Alaska. Pink does not exist in the state of California at all. And a little bit of pink here in Ohio. That's got to be some of the most terrifying data that the Democrats can see. Because if you just voted recently Republican, you could think that might flip back in the next 4 years, but they voted twice in the last last 2 election cycles. This light purple is kind of interesting. It voted Trump in 2016, voted Biden in 2020, then back to Trump. So that's this part of Texas, that's this part of Arizona, certain parts of California, definitely. That just tells me that this is like normally Republican stuff. 2020 was just a crazy, outlandish year, and they decided just to go back to red. I don't feel like that's as insane as the pink stuff. The orange counties voted Clinton, Biden, Trump, which means that these counties always voted with the popular vote, at least with the last 3 election cycles. So even though Clinton didn't win in 2016, overall they predicted the popular vote correctly. These counties predicted the popular vote correctly. They voted Clinton and then Biden and then Trump, then yes. Green, Trump, Biden, Harris. So Harris actually managed to win these counties. Those are pretty interesting. Spots in Colorado, this part in Utah, got some Michigan, we got some parts in the Northeast, and then the very solidly blue Clinton, Biden, Harris. No matter what, they did not vote for Trump in the last 3 election cycles. Pretty typical spots, a lot of stuff in California, a lot of stuff in the Northeast, Washington, Oregon. I really like this map. Now throw in 2012. Nah, that's just gonna be too crazy. And again, wow, yeah, there is not a single county that went Trump, Trump, then Harris. Or Clinton, Trump, and then Harris. Harris is the first candidate since Herbert Hoover in 1932 to not flip a single county. Meanwhile, Trump flipped 6 states and lost Virginia and New Jersey by only 5% each. Here are some of the individual groups that shifted towards Republicans this year. Now, this data does date back to 2012 when Barack Obama beat Mitt Romney. So broken down by race, Black Americans voted for Barack Obama by plus 91, but then only plus 72 here 12 years later. That's a 9-point shift for Republicans. Hispanics went plus 39 back in 2012, now only plus 10 here in 2024, so Republicans shift 24 points. That's the biggest, but you can also see a very similar thing with Asian Americans, also other. I can't even imagine what these numbers would look like if you went back to 2008. 2008 was such a landslide for Obama. That was his first election. Just a massive change election, winning so many states. By race and education, white Americans with no degrees shifted even more towards Republicans in 2024. Even non-white Americans with a BA degree even shifted 21 points. But insanely, non-white, no degree, plus 37 towards the right. This is among the craziest though, 18 to 29. Young people have been shifting more and more right. So, I mean, well, every generation has shifted more. Every single one of these demographics have shifted right. But the fact that the youngest of generations on here shifted the most right, that's some of the most shocking data to me. Crazy. Here are some of the biggest events of the past 100 years and how they affected the stock market. And yes, we are going to get to the election. These are some of the major events that occurred during the Cold War and post-Cold War that really took everything and shifted the economy around. Obviously, to start things off, we have the Great Depression where the Dow lost 89% over 3 years. The massive Wall Street crash, which started the Great Depression. The next big hit, the attack on Pearl Harbor. So at least that didn't occur for like another, 10 years after the Great Depression. Then there's the Kennedy slide, 1961 to 1962, also known as the flash crash of 1962. Dow dropped 27%. Keep in mind, the markets just don't like when they can't predict something. When the future looks unclear, that tends to be when people are less likely to invest or they're going to pull their money out. A big one being the Cuban Missile Crisis. That shouldn't be very surprising. That was literally an event where like everyone thought the entire world was going to end. Crazy how close the Cuban Missile Crisis is to the Kennedy assassination. That's the next one on here, almost exactly a year later. I'm actually surprised it didn't go down even lower than just 2.9%. I mean, the president was oofed live on camera. Well, actually, I don't know if it was live, but on camera. Big market drop during Nixon's resignation in 1974. Okay, the markets really don't like when presidents get shot. 1981, Dow drops 0.26, which really isn't that bad. It literally recovered the next day when they found out he was only injured. Challenger shuttle explosion that occurred in 1986. That dip doesn't really look like there's much of a dip. I literally don't even see anything. I'm sure there was, but it probably wasn't really big. I mean, still with all these events that we're talking about here, it's mostly the Wall Street crash that was the most giant. But also the Pearl Harbor attack, everyone entering World War II. Even just Nixon resigning, there was a massive dip. There's Black Monday in 1987. Largest market downturn since 1929. Dow dropped 23%. Then Black Friday, which was the largest since Black Monday. Oh, this is like the 80s, end of the whole 80s thing, right? Finance bros, kind of. Well, their finance bros are still there. Berlin Wall falling. Oh, markets gain. Is that the first have I been misreading? This is the first markets gain. Man, imagine being back then. It wasn't that much of a gain, but it really would end up being one. .com bubble where the NASDAQ rose by 582% on speculation of the internet startup success. Yeah, they kind of got a little bit too early into that. .com bubble burst. Bam, 75%. 9/11, which occurred, lost almost 5% in the S&P 500. Columbia shuttle explosion 2003. Subprime mortgage. Okay, that was really bad. And the 2008 recession. Dow lost lost 50%. I remember that. That was really scary, dropping back to like 1990s levels. Finally, there was the recession period, which took place between 2009 and 2010. There was the flash crash, which lasted approximately 6 minutes. The Dow just dropped 9%. That's scary. And finally, yeah, the coronavirus markets crashed and the Dow dropped 37%. That's actually when I started investing. Wait, yeah, that's when I first started to invest. Just barely anything. Funny to look at it from this perspective to see how historical events can obviously really shape the economy. And here are my patrons.
I finally escaped from Drew's basement.
Lucas, the Canadian Christmas trees.
Honk,
Argentinian Grandpa,
NordTyrol,
DOOCHBAGGINS.
Imperial Japan flag is the same as modern Japan.
Koyle, please stop making this mistake. It's
Archaeology,
aPhatNarwhal,
Carmel
Pavlik,
DaBeautiful-MEGAN-Underwood,
Fredrik Tibblin, InquisitorXarius,
Tambre,
Mexican,
and ZaneyBoi.